Hello, filmmakers, and welcome to the Wedding Film School Show, a podcast dedicated to the craft, business, and personal aspect of running a wedding film brand. The Wedding Film School Show is hosted by myself, Jared Haskell, and my longtime business partner, Jason McCutcheon. If you're looking for free resources or to get your wedding film business off the ground, make sure to check out weddingfilm.school or check us out on Instagram for news, giveaways, and more. Well, okay, Jay, I'm a little tired today because I stayed up till 3 a.m. playing Anno 1800 while my wife and child slept.
You got to play Helldivers too.
I haven't hopped on Helldivers yet. I'm still on the old man dad game.
See, I've been
Not
playing
the cool hip modern one.
Yeah, I've been playing a couple games, but one of them is the Deep Rocks or Deep Dive Survivors or something. Deep Rocks. Honestly,
Okay.
But it's like one of those horde games where like they're just surrounded, like kind of like
Yeah,
bullet
yeah.
hell.
Yeah.
I've been playing that one every night.
Yeah.
What's funny is when you play a game a lot, like I don't know if your wife does this, but my wife and my daughter will always come up to be like, "You're still playing this?" They're like, "You're not bored with this game?" And I'm like, "I didn't beat it."
My wife, so we put the kid to bed last night, and I was going into my office. My wife was like, "You're not coming to bed?" Like, she's like, "I can't sleep unless you're in bed with me." I'm like, "You're literally putting me in a prison." It's like, you're a dad, so like you maybe have like an hour to yourself at nighttime. And so she was like mad that I wasn't gonna come to bed. I was like, I just want to play a video game because it's like literally the only thing I can control in my life right now.
I solved that myself by getting the little mini gamer thing, the handheld
so
computer.
you can play in bed.
So I play in bed.
But I cannot have my phone on in bed or any screens because that also will keep her awake. So it's
She
really
wants to
like
sleep.
She wants to sleep, but she can only sleep if I'm
What time does she want to
literally snoring. She can only sleep if I'm snoring.
What time does she want to go to bed?
Like, ideally, probably she wants to go to bed at like 9. And she needs like 10 hours of sleep. She needs like, I can probably do like the Reagan, like full 6 hours and be fine every day. I would probably prefer like 7. I would prefer probably 8, but it just, life never allows for 8 hours.
Let's be realistic.
Yeah. But yeah, it was like, and then she woke up at 3. She was so mad that I was playing a video game till like 3 a.m. I was like, I haven't done this since I was like in high school.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll get the same thing, but they'll be like, I'll be getting texted.
Yeah.
And they're like, why aren't you responding to my text? I'm like,
yeah.
If for those listening, I did an impression of me holding a remote, not a phone, and looking at a television.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is loud. I can't hear my phone, and it's midnight, so I don't even answer text messages. So.
Yeah. Totally.
Anyway, hey, listen, guys, if you're out there, obviously, you got a happy wife, happy life. But also, we feel your pain.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Bobby popping in quick to let you know that this episode of the podcast was brought to you by Tamron. Providing filmmakers with the perfect mix of performance and value, Tamron has every type of lens to fit your needs. With their moisture-resistant construction, close focusing abilities, 6-year warranty, and remarkable optical performance, Tamron lenses can help you upgrade your wedding films. I know I personally keep the 28-75 2.8 in my bag, and I often reach for it on a wedding day. So send them some love for making this episode possible. Check out some of their lens options in our gear link below or at www.tamron-americas.com.
Yeah.
That's all we're saying.
We understand.
And women, we understand your position too. We understand everything is what we're saying.
Yes.
We're the wisest people. So
totally. That's
since
why
we're so
tuned in.
wise,
we
can actually talk about our topic today.
We can. So, maybe a controversial topic, maybe not so much. Maybe we're stating the obvious, but today we're going to be talking about wedding publications and their relevance in 2024, especially when it comes to wedding filmmakers. Should you be putting any stake in your clout on these wedding blogs? At the time of recording this, the Over the Moon blog was just released their best
a couple weeks
wedding
ago.
vendors of 2024.
Got us
And
thinking a little bit.
got us thinking a little bit. I know a lot of people were pretty butthurt that they weren't on the list. People that made the list, there's a lot of people squawking about a lot of things.
And so this is just to be clear. I don't care about this list one way or the other. I have friends on it. Anyone who made it, congratulations. Everyone on the list deserves. It's not about the list.
Mhm.
It's mainly like things like that just produce a conversation. And the conversation, I think, is also, I mentioned on another episode, it's not a list, but it's just publications, lists, blogs, print, just the way that the industry kind of operates, right?
Right. And so, we actually talked about this in an AMA show recently because someone asked kind of what stake we put in it. And we thought we could expound on it a little bit more in like a full podcast. But our pretty much our takeaway in that show was like, yeah, I guess if a list, and I think this is kind of like the feeling of probably most filmmakers out there is like, yeah, a list can work for some, but it's not necessary for everyone to have a successful.
No, but let's be honest about what people
business.
really say about the list. They go like this, well, I don't really care about those. But if they made it on the list, you would be...
Oh, it'd be all over the place, yeah.
And you should be excited. Like if you make if you made the Harper's list or the Over the Moon list, and you're excited, you're not lame. Like, you should be excited. That's a cool thing. But regardless, it's funny how people are always be like,
yeah, those things don't have any value.
I don't really care about that.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we do. We all care about that.
Right. And so that's kind of like the general takeaway. Like, maybe it's effective. Like some, high-end wedding filmmakers might say like, I've never gotten a lead directly from the Harper's list, or, stuff like that. But there's definitely some kind of exposure that comes with being on a major publication like The Knot or not. I'm sorry, not The Knot, Brides Magazine.
The major publication.
Yeah, major publication, The Knot.
Tastemakers.
Someone just spewed out their, drink while they're driving. But yeah, there's some kind of clout that comes with it. And really, probably like you can't tell me wedding planners aren't seeing that and saying, I want to hire those people because I saw them on the Harper's list or like, whatever it is.
Just, I think to really understand what we're talking about, you've had to have been around since the beginning of, I think, like the internet version of the wedding industry, right? When we got involved in the wedding industry, like I don't want to say the internet was new. It wasn't new, but I think like the idea of a blog was kind of new, and the idea of like magazines having an online presence that was different than their print presence or competing with their print presence in some way was also not the thing. So like when we got involved, it was all about magazines.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was like some upstart blogs coming up, whether it be Green Wedding Shoes or Style Me Pretty.
Style Me Pretty. I remember when we got on
The Wedding
Gray
Chicks.
Likes Weddings.
Gray Likes Weddings.
We were one of maybe 10 wedding filmmakers in the country. This is probably like 2013 or something.
Yep.
Like that was a really big deal for us because we were one of 10 in the country. Like that's crazy. It was still like very much like an emerging kind of industry. It used to be a huge deal.
But it meant a lot. And that's
it did.
my point. It's
yeah.
like the very first piece.
And it actually helped. I do think it actually made people money being on these lists.
Oh, at one point. And it's not just being on the list. It's like being featured and being in an article. And just to be clear, I think for photography, this still matters quite a lot. Because if you're on the cover of Vogue, because you shoot some celebrity wedding, or you're on the cover of Martha, because you shoot some great, amazing wedding that is the it style for the quarter, that'll help you. So it matters. And it does matter for filmmakers, but like at one point it really, really, really mattered. And it was a big deal. And I remember the first thing we ever did, I don't know if you're like, we made the first paid client we ever got. We made like an engagement piece. And they had this whole story where he would like, I don't remember why, but their long distance relationship. And he was like, oh, this was a big deal to us that we would travel and we want to film at the airport. Film like a save the date video. And it was almost like a drama. Like he emulated like him going to pick her up at the airport and he's like holding a sign and we shot it really cute. And it was like, we shot it like a commercial video, like in terms of like the narrative structure. And the funny is when we got there, do you remember how we had to go get insurance clearance
Yeah.
to allow them to film on.
We're talking to some guy from the FAA or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
in his office at Logan Airport.
Yeah, we told the couple.
And he was
we're
like, "You have insurance, right?" And Jay was like, yeah, let me just get it for you. Goes out, calls the Hartford, is like, "Hey, I need insurance."
well, I had insurance. I didn't have the right
Right.
type of insurance. So I had
Right.
to add insurance.
Yeah.
So I'm in the office talking to the person at the airport. I'm like, 1 second. I walk out, add the coverage.
Yeah, come back. Here it is. Yeah, he's sending the policy.
But
your way.
regardless,
Yeah.
we shot this thing, and I don't really know how it got picked up by Style Me Pretty because we didn't submit it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
maybe the couple did.
well, that's the
whatever
big
it
thing is like brides used to really, really be connected to this stuff, and they were participating and feeding the content. And maybe that's one of the shifts is that it became more of like an industry fed thing than the couples. But this bride, like, we got featured.
Right.
They actually featured the video on their Facebook page and on an article. I'm not really sure we got much out of it, but I remember for us, like, it was a huge boost of confidence. Like, we were like, this is the first thing we ever did. This is going to be easy. We're shooting this
Right.
awesome location. We have this great couple. Like, wow. Like, we didn't even realize how rare that was because we didn't know anything. Probably if it happened nowadays, we probably would have capitalized on it a little better.
Yeah.
But regardless, back in those days, these magazines and blogs, they had a lot of sway.
Yep.
And if you got featured, it was a really big deal. Now, as the years have gone by, we've been featured, and that's kind of a iffy term. Like, what does it mean to be featured? How would you describe being featured by a blog or an article? Like, to you, what does that mean as a filmmaker?
Well, I guess what it means as like a base in my mind would mean that someone is saying, "Stop, Go, Love made this awesome video. Here it is." Now,
That's what my mind is, but
now,
also that's not the reality.
that's not the reality of what that means to be featured on somewhere like Style Me Pretty.
For the photographer,
you know,
it is, but not for the filmmaker.
For the photographer, it is, because all these publications, this might be getting into, a next point, but like the truth about a lot of these blogs, even for all time, even now in an age of video, is all these blogs are photocentric, right? They are going to put 100 photos before your video. That is, even if they include the video in that blog post. They're only, what they do, I would say 90% of the time, is they just say video by Stop, Go, Love.
Yes.
And then they might link your name to your website. Cool.
They might put the Vimeo.
So that's what it actually means to be featured, which to me is complete garbage and useless. I mean, maybe there's some SEO value there. But your SEO value is more valuable than the person who's going to be reading that blog post, right?
Yeah. So we've been quote unquote featured,
right?
Over, I don't know, it has to be over 20 times. I mean, at least 3 or 4 times a year.
Right.
We're in some high profile-ish wedding, and none of you have heard of us, by the way, until we had a blog, until we had a podcast, until we had a YouTube channel. But we've been doing this for a long time at a high level at the type of part of the industry that's good enough to be featured.
Right.
And yet, like, it really hasn't done much for us. And honestly, like, we recently had something, you had mentioned it, we talked about it in a previous episode, but you Style Me Pretty. We're at a wedding, front page. And this is the truth about this stuff. Style Me Pretty for years had a thing called Little Black Book. Now, when we first started in the industry, for us, it was like a dream to be on the Little Black Book.
That was like industry standard for the best of the best.
At least as far as we know, by the way.
Yeah.
Maybe there was other things,
maybe, but there really wasn't.
There wasn't much.
Yeah.
And so it was a goal of ours, and like, you gotta have goals, so it's fine that was our goal. And we would submit every year, and every year I felt like they just ignored us for the most part. I don't even remember.
Well, they just said, you guys aren't, pretty much saying you guys aren't good enough, to join this elite list of photographers. And personally, I think they have always kind of been biased against wedding filmmakers, because wedding filmmakers, for a while, they were seen as like maybe more cheesy than the photographers. Photographers became way cooler, or became cooler way sooner than videographers did.
Yeah, because videographers are still trying to recover from our bad image.
Yeah.
But recently we got featured again. And Jared made a really snarky post on our Instagram page on Stop Go Love. And it was like, Style Me Pretty won't play this for you, but we got featured, but they didn't feature the film, so here it is.
That was the mild version of the post. I had to dumb it down.
Yeah. So
because they made a big deal about it, like, oh, everyone's gonna be featured. And I had even mentioned it to the person who had submitted, like, hey, is this just gonna be a link out, or are they actually gonna share
you
the
sent
video?
them the film?
They have the film. And they said, yeah, we shared the film too. So somebody's lying. I don't know.
So
I mean,
anyway,
just,
this is the lie. So we get a message out of the blue. I have no idea why we got this message, by the way, like weeks later. And it was definitely weeks later, right?
Yeah.
And I'll read you guys what I said to this person because I think you'll get a kick out of it. And we'll actually get to the point at some point. But thank you so much, for, this person. Hi there. What does this person say? Hi there. This gorgeous video was never uploaded to the submission or shared with our team. We would love to be included in the feature if you're interested. I was like, 100%. Great. Do you have a chance to YouTube link? Vertical or full film? So they never answered this question, by the way, one time. Also, can we get approved for our black book, or are we rejected for that still?
Yeah.
Just curious if after 12 years of doing this, we have earned the spot yet.
Yeah.
And fingers crossed emoji.
Yeah.
This person's like, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. We did receive your denied email. Or when did you receive your denied email? Let me check with my team because that was not correct. If you had 2 features on the site, you're automatically accepted. And if you've been featured within the past 6 months, you should be auto-accepted as well. So we need to look into this.
Yeah.
I'll look at our system, and we should get you an acceptance email by the end of the week. Have you gotten that, by the way?
No.
So I go multiple times for many years, despite being featured multiple times.
Yeah.
Like we've been rejected multiple times.
Well, they have this is going down a Sell Me Pretty rabbit hole, but they have a free listing. You can have a free listing, right? And anyone can go on there. So I'm not sure if this person's talking about the free listing or the paid listing, which is about $1,000 a year. You know, I thought the black book was $1,000 a year, and the free listing is just a listing, right? So I don't know. I mean, when I was on there, we probably had.
Well, this person might not even know what they're talking about, so that makes multiple points.
Right.
And so I was just kind of like, we've been denied a lot, and also like the industry, So regardless, like. Why am I saying all this?
Right.
And one more random bit of information. It recently came to my attention that the Harper's list is gone now. The best of weddings. At one point, that was my goal for Huxley Film. I want to be on the Harper's list. I know a lot of people, that's their goal. I think my whole point with all of this is that both these 2 things were my goal. And both of them, I didn't accomplish. And honestly, like my business lasted longer than both of their lists. And so what is the value of this stuff? And what does it mean? Is it mean anything anymore?
Mm-hmm.
And because I wouldn't say it means nothing, but what does it mean? And like, I think the greater long-term actual point for us as filmmakers is, because I was talking to someone about this recently too, is how do we as filmmakers actually get the same platform that photographers have? Like how do we overcome the fact that in terms of like marketing your reputation, we have no advocates in the wedding industry?
Right. Yeah, I would say a couple points, to kind of recap. One, these blogs were never really friendly to wedding filmmakers. 2, their influence is dwindling very steadily just due to the fact of the internet. People don't go on blogs. When we first started, everyone planned their weddings through blogs. Like it was even before Pinterest, dude.
Yes.
Pinterest was just starting. So,
Pinterest took a huge chunk of their viewers.
Blogs were everything, and then it was Pinterest, and now it's not even really Pinterest.
And the magazines
Instagram,
are all going out of business.
TikTok, magazines, print. I mean, it's all dwindling. The influence of all these publications are dwindling. So I guess the question is, there's a bunch of questions out of that. Is like, what is the value of these publications now? Has it shifted to like some social media channels? I think there are some social media, Instagram accounts that have tons of viewership. By the way, they've also embraced video in a very real way. So I think there's a lot of value add for wedding filmmakers. But then also, like, what is the next thing, right? Like, what is the next place that wedding filmmakers can get that level of exposure and validation, right? Validation of like being one of the best wedding filmmakers. And, I would say maybe if your goal is to be on a list, um, I wouldn't necessarily say maybe it's a terrible, uh, goal, but I would say it's kind of out of your control in a lot of ways.
Big
And so,
time.
so I would say there are better goals for you as a professional, to list out.
Well, and I'll
And
just
I
say
want to
from
go
our
through some of those things.
experience, in our experience, the point is like we really wanted to accomplish this, and we would have viewed it as being successful, and that's not horrible.
Right.
But
Right. Well, that's the validation part, right? Like it feels really good being validated by other professionals, whether they be wedding filmmakers or outside of wedding film world. It feels good to have people give you the credit that you've worked so hard to deserve.
well,
Like,
and it speaks towards like
there's a very natural human instinct that's pretty clear, I think.
it speaks really deeply towards the little brother syndrome that wedding filmmakers have of like we're never good enough to be treated like anyone who should give a crap about us. Like, I remember being at Engage and going to they had like a roundtable for publications. I've told this story a bunch, and I just checked again to make sure I'm still correct. But I remember going to the Scrum thing that they did. It was like a forum with like Carrots and Cake was on stage, Brides magazine, a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And one of them had the gall to say, video's huge now on social media. That's good for you filmmakers. And you know what I do right away when someone says that? I go, okay. And I take out my phone, I open it up, just like I'm doing right now, and I'm looking at their feed. And this is Carrots and Cake's feed. And it's so good for me. Oh, it's so great that you love wedding filmmakers so much that you haven't featured a single wedding filmmaker's work on your entire account. Maybe I find one by accident and it's the same freaking featured filmmaker. It's like, that's a cell phone shot. And it's like, well, people like that. And this is what it all comes down to. You have to realize, if you're out there and you're new to this industry, that every one of these people, their win is much cheaper than your win. Your win is sell a wedding film for thousands of dollars. They don't need that. What do they need, Jared?
Eyeballs. Yep.
They need one person to click.
Mhm.
And so they're incentivized to do things. The incentive structure is broken for you as a filmmaker. Like, they're not incentivized to do anything with you because they know for a fact that your stuff doesn't work on social. And if they put up some dumb thing, and we experimented with it on an account one time, we just posted random crap and we grew tens of thousands of subscribers just because we were like, oh, well, like, I don't know what will happen.
Just post viral videos. That it's not good filmmaking at all.
No.
Like algorithms do not reward.
No,
good
because
filmmaking.
like if you just post like a little girl walking down the aisle crying because she wanted to be with her mom, you're appealing to grandmas, you're appealing to other little girls, you're appealing to mom. It's like, we want customers. They want views. And they're in a bad place too. Like, they're all suffering. So they're getting more desperate for views. They're not principled. They're not like, we want to be part of the wedding industry or we want to help people. Like, they wouldn't put a single photographer's stuff if it didn't perform well on the internet. And so the incentive structure is totally off. And so you need to realize that if you're listening to this, you're not like, your films aren't going to do as well as the crap that they are posting, and like, nothing's going to change that.
Right. Yeah. They these platforms and blogs, they care so little about wedding filmmakers. They don't think about you at all. Like the fact that they would say something like that, and all of them believe it. Like video's great. Like wedding filmmakers, you guys are, so valuable. But they don't even think that they haven't even posted a single wedding
It doesn't
film.
cross their mind that it's actually
or
bad for us.
anything video related that's not shot on a cell phone. Like they care so little, and I'm not even blaming them because everyone's got to eat. They got to do
I'm not
whatever they do.
blaming them.
But it's just we're talking about like the reality of what these platforms are and what they actually do for wedding filmmakers in our industry, right?
Yes.
So
And how they work, and like what actually they're trying to do is just get clicks. They are not trying to actually give people a list of the 10 wedding filmmakers, and that's what Harper's has proven.
Right.
But they get rid of the list because it didn't work.
right,
They don't care about the wedding industry. They were never trying to help the wedding industry.
Yep.
They were trying to get people to buy magazines or do clicks. And every list, and like this brings me to like freaking, which maybe we'll do a viewing party. We talked about that, but this brings me to the Love Story Awards.
Yeah.
Like I've seen a lot of people like getting upset, and I do understand why. Like the some of their licensing demands they're not as actually sketchy as people think because it's very common in commercial.
Tell me about that. I have no idea.
So
about this.
basically,
What
like
is this?
they have a saw a post in our Facebook group the other day, but I've seen it before. Basically, they can do whatever they want with your film.
Okay. They are licensing your
Yes.
work, and they can
If they submit it, but they have to
sell.
They have to do that because if not,
their
you
platform. They have to make money.
Well, and also you could sue them. Like if they didn't get that licensing agreement from you and they posted your intellectual property, like don't be an idiot. Like how else are they supposed to
Exist
or like publish someone else's content without permission?
Right.
So that's all they're really saying. But I get why people don't like it.
Right.
But the thing I don't really like is I think they have better, by the way. They have some filmmakers who are judges and they've improved to some things.
I do think, maybe the critique, which is fair, is like maybe that's not very clear to filmmakers. Like it's one of those like terms of services that's just like, fine print, and they try to like sneak it by because they know if they blew it up and we're like, just making sure this is what this means. This is what our business model is. Their model is a little bit gray to me. Like, I'm not sure. Like,
well, their model is
I know now because
clicks and views.
I have to understand business model of any kind of business that I'm interacting with, and I'm kind of like, dive into it, and I understand it, and I think they have to do what they're doing. But I think maybe it's fair criticism that it's like, this is our business model and why we do things a certain way. Like maybe that it's fair that should be a little bit more clear.
Here's what I'm saying about it. Love Story TV, right?
Right.
I think it's great that they have real filmmakers.
I think it's great that they have a platform that is wedding filmmaker forward. That is awesome.
But you have to understand the incentive structure is my point.
Yeah.
Their actual incentive structure is getting normies to watch it, build ad revenue. That is always what it's about. It's never about you. No one's doing anything for the goodness of their heart to make wedding filmmakers succeed.
Yeah.
It's about making money. And I guess maybe a total different podcast episode is like, why don't people like wedding films that aren't their own? I think I have some answers, but like at the end of the day, it's like, that's, I think, a universal truth. Like if you post content and it isn't somehow related to the person, whether it's like, I want to get married there, or I like her dress and I want to buy that dress, or this is my friend.
Yeah.
That video will do way worse than a video that's like.
I think it's actually pretty simple, is that there's so many wedding films out there. No one has time to watch other people's wedding films.
That's true.
And if they do, they want it to be good. They're going to want to watch Ray or Alex or someone they know is going to be good. Like they'd be willing to watch a top 10 wedding filmmaker because they are going to, you don't think so?
I don't think it's that because I don't think because I've seen some
people
of the
do actually watch.
But I've seen some of the
films.
things that like people react to. There's this film that I've seen multiple times. It's this terrible film, and I will not give any clues to it because I have no shade towards this person. I don't even know who they are. But I just have seen it a couple of times, and I'm like, oh, this film is terrible. And recently, it's not a person anyone would know. It's a very old film, by the way. So if you're thinking, I know who it is, you don't. I promise you. But this person who we got, like a bride who we worked with. What's funny about it is years before I saw this film and I was like, oh, this is a horrible film. Like, why would someone make this? And then, like, out of the blue, this bride's like, I like this film. And she sends us this film. This is terrible, horrible film. I think what couples want to watch in a film is much more like a Pinterest kind of thing. Is it like me? Like, they're looking for help with their wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So is this the location I want to get married in? So they're going to watch a bunch of filmmakers who shot the location.
Right.
Is this the type of dress I like? So they're going to watch a bunch of films and look at people's dresses. And like at some point in the buying process, they might get into picking their filmmaker. And this is what people need to realize. Or at least I think this is the truth. I think wedding films perform very poorly. And they perform worse than almost anything else in weddings of all the art created, including the pictures of the flowers, with people who are not purchasers.
Mm-hmm.
And everything else can perform pretty well on the internet. Like, you don't have to be about to get married to watch a little kid drive a mini RV down the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
You pretty much are not going to watch. I know there's always someone who's like, I watch wedding films all the time. It's like, that's like nobody.
Yeah.
The only people who are watching wedding films are people who are looking to hire a wedding filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all these publications know this.
Yeah. And the thing about social media is like, it's instant gratification. You see a photo, you like it. You see someone talking, like a comedian on social media, they're getting to a joke right away. You can have instant satisfaction. A wedding film, you watch the first shot, you're like, I'm bored of it. Even if it's a great shot, you're not going to be invested for more than 15 seconds, right? Like 5 seconds in most cases. So it's like, in order to,
well, it's so
most
personal
wedding films,
too. It's such a personal thing. Like, you have to hear this person's story, some stranger you don't know.
Right.
It's just like people don't connect that way, and so
you
it's
can't
like,
get to the point as fast as other mediums, as fast as
if you made this is like what I've always, and that's why we don't make this type of content, by the way, for our social, and why you shouldn't either, in my opinion. I guess you can do whatever you want, but a real wedding film is horrible for social media.
Yep.
For the most part. Not always, but for the most part. Like, I know for a fact, if I want something to bomb on social media, make it long, make people listen to a bunch of talking, and make it overly personal. If I want it to do pretty well, make it universally relatable and all that junk.
It would be terrible watching a movie on social media.
Exactly. This is why I bring it up. Because if our stuff worked for these blogs, they would be featuring it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
And so their side to the story is always important when you're thinking through, like, when you're dealing with anything and you're making a kind of thing, you got to think about the other person too. And what is their win? How do they get something out of this relationship with us? And I think we haven't really done a good job, nor can we, maybe just based on our medium, displaying our value to the powers that be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think I could be offended at carrots and cake, but they know their numbers.
Mm-hmm. They know what works for them and makes them money.
And if I was like, this is mean that you didn't feature this,
mm-hmm.
They don't care. Why should they care? Would you care? Like, do you
Right.
care? It's like, no, it's like, no. So I think all that to say, it's changing. Like, it is changing. Like, the fact that Harper's, I don't know if it's 100% true. I think they got rid of the best of Harper's list. I can't find it. Someone else has said it to me. I've heard it. And I'm not like, I don't read Harper's Bazaar, so I guess they could, but I think, like, that used to be my goal.
Right.
And that was the thing I measured, like, not so much who's the best, but who is considered the best.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it was an important, like, for the finances of America, or of our American wedding filmmaking world, is like, oh, okay, like, this person's charging $25,000 and they're on the Harper's list. Okay, that's like the top mark
mm-hmm.
that you can probably get away with in the States, charging for a wedding film. I know in I always hear about people in, like, the Middle East, and there's some guy charging like $100,000 or something. But in the States, I think like $25,000, $30,000 is like, probably where you're topping out for like a normal 2-day wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a little more, maybe a little less, depending on some specifics. But that's, to me, what the Harper's list was for. And that's gone,
mm-hmm.
right? and we're not going to be featured on Carrots and Craig's social account. That's not happening, right?
Yep.
The Knot has a quote unquote award, but we know that's not a real award. There's some regional stuff. Of course, there's Over the Moon and there's the Wedding Filmmaking Awards at Love Story TV. But after that, like, where are we? Like, what's the prize that we can win that will prove to us that we're the best? And like, how do we take part in how the wedding industry? The greater issue is like, how do wedding filmmakers' art be featured in how the wedding industry is perceived to the masses? It's not at all still. This is why we aren't hitting like critical, why we can't grow our percentage of sales. If any of these people decided wedding filmmaking was an important part and they started pushing it to all the couples who looked at it, that would be the number one thing for us. And it's weird how it works, that it doesn't help at all, but also it determines how the wedding industry works. And maybe that's changing, but like, what's next? That's my question. Is there an opportunity?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little bit hard for me to tell you for sure where things are going. I can say, we've had a lot more success in the last year on social with a certain style of social strategy. But it's going to be much more personal. It's not necessarily like, I'm not necessarily doing what we do to try to win an award, because it's out of my hands. Like, if someone recognizes that we're good, that's great, and they can give us a reward, but it's not something that I can actively work towards. I'm going to work towards creating the best wedding film and creating the best company. And if I'm, notified by a publication, whoever it might be, small or big, then that's great. And I think that should be the approach for most wedding filmmakers, is like, what is the thing that's actually working for you to get noticed? Because like, the truth about these publications, again, it's validation for yourself. It's a prize to be won, makes you feel good. But is it actually making you that money? Is it getting you that exposure? I think there's other things that can really get you that level of exposure and make you much more money at the end of the day, right?
Well, 100%. I do think there's a flip side to it, which is like, there's you, right? There's the you side, which is, how do I sell a wedding?
Yes.
Right. And then there's a us side, where it's like the fact that we are put on the margins by the actual powers that be in the wedding industry makes it really hard to charge as much as a photographer charges, because our demand is so much lower, and it's artificially negative demand.
Do you really feel like that's
Yes.
due to the fact that we're not published next to photographers in a magazine, though?
I think if the last 10 years of wedding industry magazines and publications and blogs were doing 50-50 wedding films and photography, that every bride would want a wedding filmmaker. And I think the fact that it's never featured means that the thing that a bride's using to inform her, I guess grooms, but primarily brides, to inform their purchasing decisions on what should be at my wedding. So they go to an article and they go, most don't even have a wedding filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
Even ones that do, they don't show the film, so it doesn't even register as a thing. They're looking at pictures of the flowers, pictures of the food, pictures of the clothing, pictures of the hair, pictures of the location and the tent. You know the one thing they don't see? The wedding film.
Yeah.
They don't see your art at all. Yeah. And your art's going to have the same crap, so it's just going to resell those florals again.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's never being put into the cultural zeitgeist by anyone.
It's such a hard topic, because I can't say necessarily why, but if you talk to your average bride, they are just naturally going to say, oh, well, I have to have a great photographer. I'm going to spend more. Is it really due to the fact that they're exposed to that?
Yes.
Or is it more due to the fact that in a single photo, they can look more flattering than in a video?
They think they're supposed to have it. That's it.
A video tells more. It shows more. I think a video camera shows more.
There's no shade of photographers. What is better?
No.
A sick video or a photo?
I mean, it's personal to the person who cares about it.
Exactly.
So
but why do they care?
They care because they're told. I think it could be a range of issues. There.
I think it's
a range of full spectrum.
Let's assume they think they're going to look less flattering. They think that not because they've seen themselves not look flattering, but because they've seen a lot of photos and they think photos look flattering.
Well,
And that person hasn't seen a lot of wedding films and said, those people look like crap.
no,
I don't like
it's
it.
more due to the fact that they can edit a photo.
But they're not thinking about that stuff.
No, they are, dude. I think they are, because any girl, what is it, Facetune? If you're a woman who's existed or a man potentially, who's existed in the last 10 years, and you're on social media, you are very conscious about your personal brand.
I guess I would say most of those people are hiring a makeup person the day of, and they're going to look better than the rest. If they want to be on video, it's that one day.
Of course. But how many times do you see girls still go in and edit their photo even after they have hair and makeup done perfectly? Like, it's just a matter of like
I'm sure
their own personal vanity, not to make it sound terrible.
I'm sure those
like,
people exist.
I think it's true. I think you can have a single frame and be like, I like myself. I like this side of my face, all this stuff. Video, if a bride turns from like one side of her face to the other, they're like, oh, they showed my left side of the face. Therefore,
No, well, yeah.
I think there's a lot of people like that.
I just think if
Sorry,
someone,
out your microphone.
yeah, if someone is watching, if every single I have more of a drone-ish view of people. I think people are just drones. They do whatever everyone else says they should do.
There's also an aspect of influence and I think through social media. But I think it's multiple things.
If everyone thought they were supposed to get it, you don't think it would be more than 60% penetration in the market?
I think you would do
way
better.
More.
I think you would do better.
You would be like 80%. I don't think you'll ever be as high as photography, but I think you'd be much higher if every single bride was like, I'm supposed to get this. Mm-hmm. Right. And I'm not saying they have to do that. Like, because at the end of the day, I'm acknowledging that all of these magazines and lists and publications have no incentive to feature us. And it runs me into the question of what's our ceiling as an industry? If we don't add value to our partners, if like showing your work doesn't add value, if your creative vision doesn't add value to the partners, like if the photo that they put on the cover of their magazine didn't sell the magazine, they wouldn't put it on there. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's my thinking about it these days. It's not like these mean people won't put me on the list, even though I like roasting Style Me Pretty because it's funny. And it's fun to kick people while they're down somewhat. Because they didn't let me on the list all these years.
Well, so are you saying that wedding filmmakers could do more to help these blogs in a way that gives them content that actually is appealing?
Because
to
I don't
the
think you
masses?
can. What I'm saying is, if you want what someone else has, you have to provide the benefit that they provide. So if you can't provide it to those people, can we provide it to someone? Because whoever provides benefit is going to be leveraged. Because it's like when they feature KT Mary, right, or like the top of the top people, the Corbin Gherkins, the KT Marys, anyone you want to throw out the list of these great photographers, like they will put them in the magazine because it sells magazines. Mm-hmm. And so is there anyone, and I kind of have an answer, so I'm being a little bit just, is there anyone to whose film or who your film could actually sell something? Who is that person and how do you collaborate with that person? And like, that's the whole point of being featured. That's the point. Minus, we could talk about the ego side. Is there a way to replace the who determines who's the best? And that's a part of the industry I think we haven't shaken out. But I can say this, the actual best reason you want to be featured in anything is to make money. And I do think blogs and these people have been replaced by social, but not in the way people think. Not because people read a magazine and go like, this is good, and then read social and go, this is better. This is more information. This is it's not that. I think it's because the idea of who's the trusted source has shifted.
I think it's just meeting people where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Like where are people? They're not on blogs or on the internet. They're not browsing. They're on social media.
But they're not looking at the content, your content, even on social media for these blogs. Who is looking at who will show your content? Wedding planners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wedding planners are the new blog.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who, like venues, if the point of it is get exposure and get connected to potential buyers, that's the point of being featured. There's an ego side, and you can still get that ego side. It's not as, but now it's more obvious that it wasn't worth anything. but what is very valuable is like, can you control your own reach and actually make impact? Because if your name is attached to something but not your work, I don't think there's any benefit to that.
Right. And I do think, obviously, there's financial benefit to that. But also, I do think there's a little bit of validation there as well. Like, I don't know if it replaces being on Harper's Bazaar magazine. There's a lot of
that's the one
prestige of that.
That kills me that I'll never accomplish that goal now.
Right. But if you're on a high-end planner that you worked hard to, befriend and gain their trust, and they're posting a film with you, that's also pretty satisfying.
That's very good.
Yeah, because you're working with an actual partner. Like that word gets used a lot on a lot of different our partners. Like when you're working with a wedding planner, they're actually your partner. You are helping them, giving them exposure to the beautiful event that they shot, but also they're going to expose you to a lot of people as well. And one of their potential, brides or grooms will say, hey, who shot that film on your Instagram? We want to hire them. They're rock stars. Like, it's actually very beneficial to you. And in a way that I think blogs never could. And just a generic, social media blog, I guess like a modern blog, could.
Well, and why are we bringing this up? Because I think there's a lot of filmmakers who submit to these magazines and want to be featured and think it's a big deal, but don't even collab with wedding planners.
Right.
Or venues, or don't do anything with the people who are actually going to give them, because it's one thing to get maximum reach, it's another thing to get maximum impact. And it's like, I would rather talk to 2,000 people or 20,000 people who could potentially buy my work than 1 million people who are never going to buy anything from me.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, by the way, we're never going to get featured anyway. Like it's not going to change. We did a podcast episode. In reality, it's stinking a waste of breath, right? It's not going to change, and it's diminishing and it's changing. And so maybe the second part of the question is, what's next? Like, is there a future where wedding filmmaking is ingested and becomes the primary way for new couples to explore the wedding space? Is there a way where the wedding industry starts telling the wedding stories through films and not just through photos?
So I think there is a calculus to it. I think there's an equation, because we saw it ourselves last year. We had some very successful posts and collaborations with planners, and we post a lot to social media. Usually, it gets most posts for us across all 3 companies that we run. There's a few thousand views, anywhere from 2 to 8 to 10,000, I think, on average, which is good. That's good. But then we had a few that were like hundreds of thousands of views, 1,000 shares, like, etc. And I think you have some things that you felt like really led to the success of that style of video. So do you want to hop into some of maybe your thinking of like maybe how you, because I think the videos that went viral, you would watch it and be like, oh yeah, there's the it factor. So like, what is that? What is that it factor?
This is my take. I'm not an expert on this. And like for us, like 150,000 plays is like a lot. Right. And I know like if you go on Carrots and Cake, you're talking like some of these videos are like 1 million plays. So
on a cell phone.
Yes. By no means am I talking about how to have a viral video is my point.
Right. We're talking about wedding films, vertical wedding films.
A film but accomplishes my goal, which is getting in front of potential customers or wedding planners. So I think the first thing is the content isn't as important as the collaboration. And the collaboration, who the person is that you're collabing with, does matter a lot.
Of course. course.
And it's not just do they have a lot of followers, but what, you know, how do they engage with their account and all that stuff. And like typically you're going to get the most benefit. The film, like the planner or the venue, they'll get some benefit because they need content and your stuff is high quality content. But in terms of lift, you get the lift, right? You're the one who's like, because you have less to offer than the planner in terms of audience, typically. Not true of everyone, but probably true of most wedding filmmakers.
Okay.
You're much more likely going to see like a wedding planner with 20,000 followers who's like a local person than a filmmaker.
Right. Yep.
Why? Because they're posting a bunch of photos that actually work.
Yep.
And
so the collaborator.
Yeah. So who you collab with.
Yep.
I don't know if this is true, but I've always found whoever posts it is whose audience is primarily leveraged. So if it's really important to me, and I think it will do really well, I would rather the planner post it, not me.
Sure.
I don't know if that's actually true, but
Yeah. This is diving into like very, like what does meta like right now kind of stuff.
But at the end of the day, in terms of the actual content, you know, I think first of all, under 30 seconds has to be.
Sure.
Now, sometimes we post longer videos, by the way, because we don't care. But in terms of like stuff that will do well.
What would you say is in the video itself? Yeah. What is the stuff?
Well, the reason why I say the length is because that means by definition, you can't have like a typical montage style wedding film where there's like 30 seconds of B-roll and then one line and then another 30 seconds of B-roll. And that's like how most films are structured. You have to structure it like, what is the things, at least, especially in the first 5 seconds, that a person who doesn't care about this couple but likes this partner would be interested in? I'm trying to appeal to that wedding planner's audience with the content I put in this film. And I know this is like, oh, what about the couple? It's like, I never viewed that as a conflict because I'm like, well, they hired the planner. They like the planner's stuff. So, and everything the planner did, if they're good, which they are, he's representative of the couple. So anything I put in the film represents the couple. That's how I view it. In terms of how I cut it, I'm thinking, how do I appeal to this wedding planner's audience? And that's like, so listen, you can be as mercenary as you want. Like, I know some people are uncompromising, you know, and they're like never going to change what they do creatively.
I mean,
that's not how I feel.
As a filmmaker, I think when producing content, it's kind of reverse methodology where as a filmmaker, you're typically saying, what is your A role, right? What is a lot of time that's going to be like a speech. That's your storytelling arm, like the engine, right? It's like someone giving a speech. And then your
whatever
B-roll,
your like narrative structure is.
Your B-roll is to support whatever the person is saying or talking about, whatever the interview is speaking about. It's reverse with content, right? Where the A-roll isn't as important. You are really just focusing on the B-roll. And so as a filmmaker, I've always thought of
the B-roll is the A-roll.
Yeah. Your support shots are now the star, right? The reason why those posts, I think, went very viral was because you were a content creator. You were like the dress. She wore this banger dress that was super unique. And honestly, that's a lot of why that one went very viral.
The song was good.
The song is good, but the content, the shot, the symmetry, it really flowed very well together. And that's like any good storytelling, but it was the content. They had a lot of very unique and novel things at that wedding that we were able to, I think the first step is always recognizing what those things are, which not every filmmaker will do. Like what is novel about the situation that will stand out from other posts? And sometimes it's just the raw truth of it doesn't always exist. There's not something that's different. It's always trying to find how to maybe capture something differently if it's not that different of actual content. But I think a lot of wedding filmmakers would take a big step in just recognizing what is novel about this shot or, setting, or what is the bride wearing? Just like you have to pay attention to really find details. That's probably step number one.
You have to understand the industry.
Yes.
You have to understand what is the structure and what is the person who's looking at this person's account trying to do right now. I know if I post something to a wedding planner's account, the person is, not all of them, but many of the people following, the people I want to pay attention to mostly, are not married yet, but are soon to be married. They are planning their wedding. I know this because they're on a wedding planner's account. So they're interested in what goes into a wedding. So my stuff has to be part of how they understand what they want to buy for their wedding. It's video Pinterest is how I think of it.
Mhm.
And I know for some people, it's like, that's not personal. Like, I think like you see something like Blink Films, right? And you see her work and it's driven by emotion, not by this stuff. And every once in a while, there is a storyteller that is able to do that. They're able to generate so much emotional impact that it transcends the wedding. This is a unique storyteller and probably a very unique wedding. That you can't build a business on, I think. And even like Blink Films, like Catherine is amazing, dude. Her work is amazing. She's a great storyteller. And you'll see a couple that are like 100,000, but most are talking like 7,000, 30,000, but like 8,000. It's like the same as our stuff. This person is amazing. They're considered to be better than us. And she's having the same traction.
Just
online.
because of what it is.
Just because what it is.
Yep.
And because it's not scratching the itch that the person online is, the incentive structure is not there. And so I think like if you want to be recognized and you want to like the whole idea of being featured and winning rewards and all this, there's the ego side. I don't know how we replace that. I'm definitely think it's interesting.
What do you wish that would replace the current situation? If you were to say any platform out there, like what would that look like?
So I wish that every single company involved with weddings hired wedding filmmakers to make commercial content for their companies. I wish that the companies would use wedding filmmakers to actually grow the industry. That would be great. And to some extent, it happens. You see like 31 Films is doing this all the time with dressmakers, right? But it's kind of crazy to me that I am like that. Everybody always says, video's so hot right now. How about you buy some? Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. Are you crazy? I'm not going to buy any wedding. I'm not going to buy any videos. You're going to do it for free, you moron.
Yeah, because if you don't, the next guy will.
And if you don't, the next guy will.
Yeah,
and also,
yeah,
like, I got you by the balls. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. So in terms of what I wish that when people thought about weddings, like who are buyers, they thought about movies. They thought about the moving pictures. They thought about how a dress looked moving, not just a person standing. I wish when a magazine released like a Kim Kardashian wedding, it wasn't just her standing in front of her flowers. Like these terrible magazine style wedding photos. There's good ones too, but like, the one like the magazine photos, that direct flash LA thing that has been happening for 30 years. Why isn't there a beautiful wedding film people remember?
Yeah.
That's what I wish. I wish that like when people were like the Kim Kardashian wedding, even like some of the weddings like East West and like La Rev have done and Sculpting with Time, these are celebrity amazing weddings and no one's even ever seen them. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Everyone's seen the photos. No one has seen the film.
Yep.
And that's what bothers me. It's like that film is amazing. People should see it. And I think if people saw it, they would want to buy it.
Yeah.
I think if
there was just the basic exposure of like, hey, here's their wedding film as well, next to the photos.
Yeah. Or we're not even going to show you your photos. We're just going to we'll do one post that's the photos and one post that's the film. I know why they don't do it because it doesn't, maybe it would work, but at this point it hasn't worked.
Yeah. It goes back to your main point of just like, do other people want to watch other people's wedding films? And we're not talking about wedding filmmakers watching other wedding filmmakers films. You're talking about just your Joe Schmo,
who their customer is.
Yeah. Just rando watching another rando.
Yep.
That's, even you're saying a random fan wouldn't even be interested in watching a celebrity's wedding film.
Maybe they would. I don't know. I think that would be the one film that could make a difference for us. Is if celebrity wedding films were always shown.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean,
But I think
If someone's
normal
a-
people's wedding films are useless. Like,
if someone's a huge fan of like Justin Bieber, I'm sure they would cry and love watching Justin Bieber's wedding film
and if
because it was
everyone,
cool.
if everyone had ever seen,
Yeah.
if a whole generation of girls grew up watching celebrities' wedding films,
Yeah.
you don't think they're gonna everyone want a wedding film?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
would.
Yeah.
They would. But you know what they grew up doing? Looking at the photos.
Yep.
And there's never been a medium for our work to ever be shown.
Yeah. So I guess it comes back to too, like, really editors of these magazines don't like to watch celebrity wedding films or because if they're not watching celebrities, they're not watching any random person.
You can really get down to brain rot of society that hates art and hates meaningful art and hates character development. And it's just like pretty much
Do
like,
we need the French to save us?
I don't know. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like we made our bed. Now we have to sleep in it. So I can't complain because I'm part of it.
Yeah.
I'm part of whatever I don't like because I'm
Right.
part of culture. But
It is just wild to me because I think a lot of people, when they think about their life, they think about it as pretty cinematic.
Mhm.
Everyone likes to think of themselves as the main character in their own movie. And yet, when they think about their own wedding day, that they wouldn't want it filmed like a movie, it's just kind of like a wild take to me.
it's not even
just
true. That's why I don't believe it. That's why I was saying initially when you said, "Oh, I think people don't want this," I don't believe it.
Mhm.
I just think that like they don't know.
Yeah.
I think most people that are making these making a decision to not hire a wedding film are not making an informed decision. They're not like looking at people's wedding films and saying, "I don't want that."
Mhm. Mhm.
They're just going like it's like a pre-decided thing. I
Yeah.
don't really care about wedding films.
Yep.
And then if you were to say like, "Well, have you seen them?"
Yeah.
Well, not really. I don't care about it though.
Yeah.
It's like, fine, okay. Like at that point, like you can't do anything about that person, you know? And I know for a fact, like,
Well, and it is true because I do talk to a lot of people through sales calls, and they'll be like, "Man, I watched all of your wedding films on your site. They're interested in hiring us, so we already kind of have them." But they're like, "I'm here crying over people I don't know." So I think you're right. There is definitely a certain level of the problem is just exposure.
just
Because as soon as you expose people to the work, even work like ours, and I wouldn't say we're the best in the world by any means. People have an emotional attachment to strangers.
my mom has no idea who Catherine Magic is from Blink Films.
Mhm.
She has never sent me any of my work over the years, by the way. But one day she just randomly sends me a wedding film.
Yeah.
And it's a Blink film. She's like, "This is beautiful." And it was a story about like,
Why don't you make films like this, Jason?
well, it was a story about, it was this beautiful story. Like there was their Christian family and cancer was involved and someone died. And it was really beautiful, really well done. Great storytelling. People love great storytelling.
Right.
And
And this is definitely an aspect of it. Like, I think random people would be much more interested in wedding films if there was an actual story to be told. The problem is most people's stories are,
Boring.
we did makeup, then we did portraits, and then we did the ceremony, and then we did more portraits, and then we had dinner, and people talked, and then we danced.
Well, and also, isn't it true that like wedding films really expose the class divide?
Right.
Like a photo can just be like, look at that. There's a reason why people go, I want flowers like this. And the florist is like, do you have $80,000?
Yeah.
Like if the person knew it was $80,000, they wouldn't even, they're not threatened by that floor. But like when you watch a wedding film, I think it's like, it feels more like, oh geez, these are just rich people.
Mm.
Like I think like we don't, to your point earlier, like the rawness of it works against us with potential customers. Like you have to be more on the nose or have a celebrity to relate with, like it's less relatable than photos.
Mm.
Photos are really relatable. And video, I think, is like, unless it's like a really compelling story, like you had mentioned, most are not. It's not as relatable. So at that point, the person just is either like a wedding enthusiast, which those people exist, or they're like looking for their venue that they're trying to book. Like they're working for themselves, planning their own wedding. But rarely are you going to have people who are just like watching your whole portfolio. And I've been following Stop Go Love for 2 years. They're one of my favorite social accounts. And then now I get married and I get to hire them.
Mhm.
Think about that. Has anyone ever said that to you?
Yeah. A couple people.
For 2 years?
Yeah. For more. Sometimes people will be like, "Oh, before we even started dating, I found you and I bookmarked you on Instagram."
But they were thinking about their wedding.
They're thinking about their wedding.
Yeah,
They
but
weren't even engaged.
I'm saying
yeah.
like they're not treating it like a social account.
No,
Like watching
no,
their
yeah.
favorite meme or their like
their favorite
the thing that
influencer.
yeah. We're not influencers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's the issue. We are not influencers. We're storytellers, and influencers who are too raw don't do well.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be vapid. And like,
Influencers that aren't too raw don't do well?
I don't think so.
Really?
Do you think that who's raw? Andrew Tate raw?
Oh,
He's not raw. Andrew Tate's he's a brand.
well, you have a friend, Kim Lynn, who I think does very well because she's very raw.
Kind of.
She does well.
I don't know how raw it is though. It's just relatable.
Relatable, but people feel like they know her and like her and they follow her because of it.
Let's add 200 pounds to that. That would be raw.
People follow people they aspire to.
Yes, that's
To
what I'm
me.
saying. They ultimately just follow people they think are beautiful and interesting.
But also, there is an aspect of reality to that. Like, it's not just all,
I think if you were,
Vapid.
it's not vapid. That's the wrong word.
they want to feel like they have a friend.
Yes, but they want it to be like not.
Or if I had knew this person in real life, I would want to be
No,
friends with them.
they want it to be untangled, right, from any kind of
Commitment.
anything like too serious.
Sure.
They want it to feel like, and if it relates to something that bothers them, like I think what Kim communicates relates with a lot of women. So I think that's important, right? Like her journey and some of the things she's gone through is relatable.
Mhm.
But like, say she said like, if she was actually really honest about everything is my point. What she's putting out there, which is smart of her, is the things that she think will also do well on social.
Mhm.
She's not just raw. She's not just posting everything that's going on. She's posting things that she thinks her audience will appreciate.
Mhm.
We can't do that with wedding films. We post what we shoot.
Mhm.
Like, and we can a little bit, like with what I said, like the Pinterest, moving Pinterest thing. But I think at the core of the issue is like, okay, we're gaming the system. We've accommodated the system with our stuff. We're like, okay, I can't get 1 million views. There's nothing I can make that will go viral. I have high quality content and it can't go viral. That sucks.
Mhm.
But okay, what can I do? Can I make something that will maybe hook a big fish? I think you can do that.
Mhm.
So we do that. But we don't aspire to tell our couple's stories online because
Right.
it wouldn't work.
Right.
It would fail.
Yep.
Like nobody wants to see it and nobody wants to hear it. And so it's like at the end of the day, that's the crux of why these blogs didn't work, why these lists weren't that valuable, why nothing has worked in wedding filmmaking to make it a household thing. Is not the price. We're cheaper than filmmaking. The photographers, think about how crazy that is. That we're like 40% cheaper and they still don't book us.
Right.
That's why I believe it's purely exposure.
Exposure and culture.
And so it's like, is there a future? Since these blogs they are going away. A lot of them have closed. There's so much less than there was. It's crazy that the internet has grown and then things in the internet die because of social.
Mhm.
These blogs are changing. These lists are going away. These best of lists, like all this stuff is what's the next thing?
Mhm.
And can we do better this time? Because I think the other issue is like wedding filmmakers were idiots for a really long time. Like we didn't understand that we're like, you're mean to me, the little brother syndrome. It's like as much like I'm roasting them right in the DM just for fun. But in reality, like I know that doesn't benefit me.
Mhm.
Stupid. I know they can't add benefit, so I have nothing to lose. So I'm doing that for me, guys, and for you. I'm standing up for you. But at the end of the day, there's no benefit I can actually get from Style Me Pretty.
Mhm.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, though, like we were dumb for a long time, don't you think? As an industry, like we just didn't we wouldn't play ball.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. You say we didn't play ball. I mean, just don't think there's anything wedding filmmakers could have done. They put maybe too much stake in it.
I think if they would have just made short stuff from the beginning
Mhm.
that was focused on what was valuable to these publications,
Mhm.
you would have done better. But I think these publications very quickly early on realized like we were making these 7-minute films that they couldn't use at all. So they don't even watch them.
Yep.
I think like the way that they interact with us now is based on the product we all made 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I don't even think they look at our stuff anymore. I think they're just like I'm like, do you want the teaser or the horizontal?
Right.
You're like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. I do think there's definitely an element to that when in the reality, like now, if like I look at like Engage is going on right
Mhm.
now over in Italy. I would much rather watch the film from Engage, like these little 30 seconds. Just get a quick 30 second and then look at the photos. I would much rather watch the film. I wouldn't say that's always the case from a wedding.
Mm.
Why is that?
Well, I do think it's the case for wedding planners. I've had planners tell me that like if I give them a video, it will perform better than the photos.
Mhm.
Not always, but sometimes. And that's great. That's a big win.
Right.
Like we know that the audience in the right context will reward video just as much as photo.
When it's done well.
When it's done well and it's in the right context.
Mhm.
It's in the like context of like you like that because you're at Engage and you want to see Engage.
Mhm.
Like I think if
And
you're
there's an element of like, what's going to happen next in this? I need to stick around for another second. Okay. Oh, that hit my dopamine. Like there's a guy with walking on stilts. Oh, that's cool. What's next? Oh, there's a
well, but that is
seal
that
bouncing
is
a ball and
the,
stuff,
that is
like,
the
whatever it is.
subject.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
the subject is the video. Like versus like if you're on a blog.
I think there is a way for the content that we create as filmmakers to kind of emulate that dopamine hit of social media, like skimming through like a carousel, boom, 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 boom. It's the same way that we should be portraying our films. That's a successful strategy. It's not your typical wedding film. So we have to like,
Yeah, I think the
re-engage our minds.
content needs to change a little.
Yep.
And I also think where the content is shown needs to be we need to find a way to get our content in front of people in the right setting
Mhm.
more often. And it's like the setting is like on a venue's IG,
Right.
on
Right.
a venue's landing page for their thing, as the background videos for your venues, as a background video for all the planners you work with. Like, and if you don't work with planners, like get some planners, but like it's much easier to get a planner than it is to get featured in a magazine.
Mhm.
So I like, to me, that's better.
Yeah.
Now I do think long term, I'll be a little surprised if the industry doesn't change their ways a little and start highlighting wedding films more. I'll be a little surprised. Like I kind of think that probably is an inevitability at some point when they realize that they have to. So be ready is all I'm saying. Like if that becomes like a thing where like Carrots and Cake is like every fourth reel that they post is a wedding filmmakers stuff. Or maybe this one. This is a better way to look at it. Say Carrots and Cake. This is how wedding filmmakers are idiots. Carrots and Cake goes like this. Hey, wedding filmmakers. We want to feature your thing on our blog. And this is how I know we're idiots because I've seen this exact argument so many times. And I'm like, you're killing us, guys. Wedding photographers do not have this argument. We want your stuff. Can you cut it down a little bit? And we need the rights. We'll put it on our account that has 800,000 followers. I'm not going to do that. That's my intellectual property, even though I don't understand what licensing is. Like, and then it's like, this is how we shoot ourselves in the foot, guys. Is like, play ball.
Mhm.
Play ball. They're the powers that be. They're the ones with 800,000 followers.
Just comes down to, do you want the exposure or not?
Yeah.
Like, do you want it or not? And I agree with you. I think a lot of, we saw it in our own personal life last year, like a certain planner or two or three that we'll work with will get a wedding film and we'll work with them very closely on creating curated content for them. And then what happens? All of a sudden, all these planners come out of the woodwork. We've been keeping our eye on you for a long time, and you work with all the planners we like, and they start hiring you based on that. There's going to be a little bit of like FOMO hopefully with these, wedding blog, social media accounts too. I can see that happening, but I agree with you that they're probably irrelevant at this point. It's much more important that the planner aspect.
Yeah,
It's
and
gonna
I
be
don't
much
know
more
what
important.
is the next thing, and maybe
Yeah.
there is no next thing, but I think at the end of the day, like, it's nice to know that, like, we're a little bit back to square one, I think, as a wedding industry, and who holds the power is shifting, and it is much more in the hands of the actual vendors,
Mhm.
which is nice, instead of like a college intern editor at some magazine.
Yep.
That's good. And then, like, wedding filmmakers, in terms of who we decide is the best wedding filmmaker, that might be a nice thing for us to do someday, some
Mhm.
award that's
I mean, yeah, then maybe we can just close on that. It's just like the value that we put on like a wedding film competition. Like, because we've talked about it forever. We've talked about it with Alex, doing an
Do you want us to
actual,
do a wedding film competition, guys? Let us know.
not us, please. I mean,
Will you give me
we're already
lots of
pretty
money
busy.
to do it? And
Yeah,
will
if
you
you
give
give
it to
us
me
money.
beforehand so I can do it?
Yeah,
And then I will do it.
yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of value there. And that's not to say that there isn't value in like what Love Stories TV is doing. It's to say, I think that wedding filmmakers need a wedding film competition that's judged by, first and foremost, wedding filmmakers. Right?
What if there
Like,
was one judged by wedding planners?
I mean, there would be value to that too, I think. And there would probably be a lot of value to that, actually. Yeah. But I think we need a place that is just deciding who the best wedding filmmaker is. And that's not necessarily a planner, right? A planner is going to tell you, oh, I like
The most
that
useful wedding
event.
film.
I like that event. That event is great. And like they wouldn't necessarily like some of the best wedding films are elopement films that I've seen.
Well, I've had some
know.
wedding planners tell me about certain people who all of you would be like, that guy's amazing. They're like, I hate that stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is, it is valuable.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Here's what I think.
I think there should be a lot of awards. I think there should be one for wedding filmmakers. I think the Love Story TV. I wish WPPI still had theirs. We really lost a big, it was gut punch when they pulled the wedding film competition for Vegas. Like, that was great for wedding filmmakers. Provided a lot of those hit points, like community, a little bit of validation for wedding filmmakers, awards. Just an overall good time. We don't have that anymore. It's like a lot of these things are really going away. So, if someone wants to start one, you let us know. We'll support it.
Let us know.
We'll plug it on the show, man.
This is like the least podcast episode with the least actual feedback and more of just a discussion, by the way. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're doing. I'm more just realize, like, I'll close with this. Do you remember when we tried to hire a PR person?
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it a lot over the years, and we've explored it, because that's actually, if you don't understand how it works, the people who are getting featured in these magazines, they work with a PR team, and the PR team gets them published.
Yep.
They get them submitted, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, that seems great. Someone else will do this for me, and they'll just get me in all the places I want to be seen. Awesome. Do that for me. Actually, it's like not, I remember if I finally got to this one PR person who would tell me the truth. Not to say the other ones were lying, but maybe they didn't know. This person had a little clarity on this. And they said, listen, I've never worked with a wedding filmmaker, and I don't know what I would do. There's nowhere for your stuff to be shown.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't do any of the stuff that I do to make wedding planners successful and make wedding photographers successful. And so I think the industry hasn't figured itself. I think it's like a new era, and it hasn't figured itself out yet.
Mm-hmm.
And what I will say to us as wedding filmmakers is we need to be very aggressive right now. I think it would be smart to fight for our position. I think it would be smart to just literally hammer carrots and cake. Like, make noise. Like, if you don't make noise, like if your planners are submitting stuff and like you're not saying, like, can you please submit my film? And don't take 6 months to get it to them, and ask them ahead of time, and like all the things that we do that shoot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah. I mean, you can say what I did to Style Me Pretty when I posted that was like kind of like a dick move. But it's like, that's the kind of stuff. Like, I'm just like, dude, I'm done with you people. You're not even that important anymore.
You do nothing to, they add no value to you, so you might as well just roast them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, all the people on there, I'm going to go online and like, they're too snooty to like accept us to like the little black book, which I'm willing to pay money for. Like, I'm gonna go on wedding videographers Facebook group and trash you guys and say how you're ripping wedding filmmakers off, because I actually think they are and have been forever, taking people's money.
Well,
and
think
how they're
about a
not returning
magazine
any
that will
value. So
pay for you to be on a list, but then
Right.
refuse to show your work to anyone.
right.
Screw that.
And it's one thing to like, it's one thing if you're just like, hey, we just can't provide value and that's it. But it's another thing to like, we're actively going to pretend like we're valuable to you. We're going to take your money. We're going to like send you a message 2 weeks after it's published asking for the video. Like, you know,
I don't
stop
think anyone.
pretending.
I don't
Like,
think anyone
it's
should
fine.
give any money to anyone who has no wedding films on their social account.
Good. Yeah.
Like
Good, good point.
if someone says, "Hey, Carrots and Cake, we'll feature you,"
Mhm.
say, "How about you feature me on the thing that makes money, social media?" Well, no. Okay, how about none of my money then?
Right.
Because you're not an advocate.
Right.
Like they're not, and so I think like we just need to realize like it's not personal, but it is what it is.
I
We
guess-
just need to be more aggressive and actually demand to be respected, and also maybe make our own place in the world.
I guess I'm just I'm confused from the wedding filmmaker community, because you see so much hate for like, you know, the placement places like the Knot and Wedding Wire and all these places that
At
are,
least
like,
they do
pay
what
to
they
play.
say.
You know, at least they provide some value. No one ever talks smack about the blogs that are willing to take people's money and not give any, because it's mushy, right? It's like this gray area of like, how do you
It's
even
just about
gauge it? Like,
it's just about prestige, and
Yeah.
and wedding filmmakers are a cheap date.
Yeah.
Like wedding filmmakers are so insecure that if someone will tell them that they're good, they would rather someone tell them that they're good than pay them.
yeah,
And it's just like dumb. Stop being that way.
yeah. Guys, we think you are pretty. So
You're
you know,
pretty.
You're
You can do it.
so let's wrap this one up, guys. Hopefully, I don't know, this has been entertaining at the very least. And,
Not that-
and
Watch us be totally wrong, and like Harper's is like their list is fine, and they have
Yeah.
it. And
they're making billions of dollars every year. But yeah, hopefully this has been helpful. And you know, I think a big part of this podcast is really just talking about where our industry is going and how to be most effective and efficient as a wedding filmmaker, where you should put your ad dollars, just giving people a little bit of backstory on kind of what's going on behind the scenes in the industry. Jason and I are very much, we always say it, we're very much industry people. Even probably before like wedding filmmakers, I would say. Like we're very involved.
I identify with wedding planners and wedding venues probably more than wedding filmmakers.
Yeah. So, you know, and that's kind of why we like to just talk shop on this podcast, express ideas. It gives us a lot of vision and clarity ourselves, I think, when we have these conversations. So hopefully it's been beneficial to you. Thanks for hanging out with us. Make sure you're checking out our Facebook group, the Wedding Film School. That's where you can get engaged with the community, where you can ask questions, where you can sell gear. We have a buy and sell tab at the top where you can share your equipment there. A lot of different things you can do in the Facebook group. Make sure you're checking it out. Also, we have 2 YouTube channels, Wedding Film School Show and the Wedding Film School. Both kind of have different purposes. You're listening to the Wedding Film School Show. That's where we post this show. And the Wedding Film School is where we post our weekly live show every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We critique your wedding films, so make sure you're going to weddingfilm.school where you can submit your own wedding film. We do those for free on a weekly basis. And that's also where you can find our BTSs, our actual behind the scenes from real wedding days as well. We do a little bit of gear reviews there. So 2 different YouTube channels. A lot of talking, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us again, and we'll see you next time here on the Wedding Film School Show.